We're going to draw a little cottage that opens up to reveal a hidden giant castle. So in order to create this little illusion, you're going to need to take your page at landscape, fold it towards the center of the page and then back. So in and then out on the left-hand side, and then you do the exact same thing on the right-hand side. Fold it in and then out. You can make it perfectly symmetrical if you want to. I've chosen not to because I like the asymmetry. So the meaning on the left, I've made it bigger on the left than on the right, but you can measure it. If you are unsure at any point, you can press pause, you can go back and play it again. Right, so now I'm just drawing a very simple cottage. I'm trying to forget about the fold, the little gap in the page, and I'm trying to just draw it as if that isn't there, and it's just one whole piece of paper. And I'm just doing a very simple cottage. You can copy my cottage as I'm doing it, but it's better if you give it your own flair and your own flavor. You can draw an entirely different one. It's up to you. This is not a prescription, it's a guide. So your cottage doesn't have to be a triangle that's on top of a square. No, it can be any shape you want it to be. It doesn't even have to have a pitched roof. It can have a flat roof. Now, once you open it up, you're going to see that your cottage is actually going to be cut in half. And you're going to have this massive open space between the two half cottages. So now, in that open space, you're going to put your castle. So when I start putting in my castle, I first want to kind of plot it out and plan it. I need to somehow connect the two half houses to each other, but also to the castle, because I want it to look like it's one structure, like it's one building. I'm not too concerned with detail at this point. I'm just plotting the main elements down, putting them down on the page. This is where the pitch of the roof is going to be. This is where the walls are ending. This is where the roof is going, and this is where it's connecting across the page. My pencil at this stage is traveling quite far and quite fast. And I'm just putting in shapes. And I changed my mind there. I had a window there and I thought, no, I think I want to rather put in a double doors to open up onto the balcony. It's quite an inviting feeling, like you want to peep inside and see who's in there. Maybe Juliet's in there. Maybe she's in there and she's about to come out onto the balcony and look for Romeo. Or maybe it's the royal couple and they've just gotten married and they're going out on the balcony to have their first kiss. Right, so now I'm just adding my front door and all that. And then I'm going to go back again. Go back to the roof. You'll see it's very important that you use your space and that your pencil travels across the whole page. There's a famous artist called Paul Clear, and he said that a dot is a line that went, a line is a dot that went for a walk. So when you're drawing, that is all you're doing, is you're taking a dot for a walk across the page. So I'm just traveling, pushing my pencil around, pushing it and pulling it, so it's not like when you draw, it's not like when you write. When you write, you are taught you've got to start at the top of the page. You've got to go from left to right, from top to bottom. When you draw, you can start anywhere on the page. And then but you've got to keep moving around. You'll see I'm now going to the top. I'm doing the towers. Then when I'm done with the towers, I go back to the bottom. Then I go to the left. So I'm constantly moving around, so that in the end, I've got a good balance and I've used my space well. My castle is starting to take on a life of its own. As you can see, I'm using different styles of building. I've got my octagonal towers. Maybe there's a dragon guarding the one, or in the other one, maybe the Rapunzel is there, throwing down her golden locks. It's a good idea to just have a look at what do real castles look like. What kind of patterns, or what are they built from? You know, just Google it, look on images. You can also, you don't have to just look at real ones. You can get inspiration from storybooks, fairy tales, and movies. Dr. Seuss has some lovely styles. It can also be as whimsical as a inflatable jumping castle or a sand castle. I've decided to move on into pen because now I'm confident with where I've put my things, and I want to just add some detail. So the pillars, I've got a little pattern at the top and the bottom of each pillar, as you would often have in these older buildings. I'm actually just doodling, not too phased about the detail because it's only paper in the end. I've added some onion domes, which is the kind that you would get in Russia. So this building is very confused. It's got parts from all over the world. I added the tree on the left just to give it some balance because there's a lot of height on the one side. I just wanted to give it balance. Okay, now I'm closing it up just to finish it off from the outside, and I realize I've got a big problem because the right-hand side of the house is not lining up with the left-hand side. And the other problem is I did it with pen. So I cannot erase it. I've got to find a way to fix it. So, but I look at mistakes as opportunities. So I'm now asking myself, what can I do with this? How can I make it look like it was always meant to be there or like it belongs there? So what I'm doing is I've decided I'm going to add a shadow. And I'm just going to make those lines that were mistakes part of the shadow. And so how I'm doing the shadow is I'm literally scribbling, but I'm scribbling more intensely with more lines closer to the house. And then the further away it goes, I want it to fade out and become lighter and lighter. So in those areas, the lines are further apart from each other. So there's a lot of white shining through from the back of the page, and that's what's giving me the lighter part. You can see I'm doing the same. I did the same in the doors and the windows to give it a bit of depth, a bit of darkness, but not entirely. So if the house has a shadow, then the tree should also have one. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. And if the shadows are on the right-hand side, the sun is on the left-hand side because the shadow is always on the opposite side of where the light is coming from. This tree, the trunk of the tree is basically just zigzag patterns, and the leaves is literally scribbles. I'm just scribbling it, but I'm doing it in a specific pattern so that it starts to give the feeling of leaves, even though I'm not actually drawing leaves. I'm also using different shades. I've got light and dark green. I've also got blue and yellow because blue plus yellow equals green. So the blues I'm using for shadows and shades, and the yellow I'm using for highlights. I'm going to start bringing in some other colored pens now and just add some detail, just cleaning it up a bit with my eraser. In the towers, I use the shapes of the windows to help give it a bit of a 3D feel by angling the windows in the shape of the tower. So you see the round ones, the top and the bottom of the windows are a bit curved, and the hexagonal ones, the windows are a little bit slanted. I'm adding some ivy and some plants, because if it's a very old building, then nature would have taken over a little bit and reclaimed some of it. And there's probably also a lot of moss growing on the side of it. And if you've ever been to these old buildings where there's moss, the moss is actually super, super bright. It looks like it's glowing in the dark. It's beautiful. It's also really slimy. So I'm adding some stones on the balcony and at the entrance, so